Duckies and Dice Fiends, welcome in. It is the Table Talk Show. I am Kay, one of your co-hosts, as you probably likely know if you're here. Below me this time is David, my other co-host. David, who the heck is you and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I'm David, and this is the Candace Isn't Here and Kay has been downgraded talk show. Uh, no, this is the Chaotic Wholesome Presents talk show where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
First go, giving you some time off.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, like I still managed to nail it. I did not bad.
You can find us here doing this every Tuesday. Normally Thursdays, we stream Baldur's Gate 3. However, we will not be streaming Baldur's Gate 3 this Thursday because I'm going to be over at is it Nerdsmith. I'm going to be over at Nerdsmith playing the Candlestick Crimes. No, Candlestick Crimes was the other one. Good gravy. The Great Labyrinth Heist. Woo! And then hopefully we'll be playing Baldur's Gate 3 Friday. We'll see if David's up to it. Sunday, head on over to Sword and Key where you can see me playing Trophy Dark. That is going to be picking up again. And then we'll be right back here Tuesday. But enough about us. As you can see, we have quite the cast with us today, and I am so excited to chat with each and every one of them. So please welcome the crew of Roads Uncharted. Let's go around. I don't know if y'all could see on the screen, but I'm going to start with Dax because you're first up. So Dax, tell us about you. Tell us about Roads Uncharted, and then we'll go around and meet everyone.
Hi, I'm Dax. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the game master and producer of Roads Uncharted. Let's see, about me. I run a Twitch channel, Dexara19, where I focus a lot on charity games, running, TTRPGs and producing them for various causes throughout the year. I also do a little bit of video game streaming over there. And Roads Uncharted is the first ever longest running Genesis RPG podcast, so go check us out.
That's nothing to sneeze at. Kappa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kappa. Christian is okay too. I do a lot of stuff. Most relevant to today, I am Ro. I play Ro on Roads Uncharted, our lovable adventurer werewolf person. I do a lot of stuff. Most recently, you can find me on the One Shot Network, where we play the game Everyday Heroes. It is just the wackiest time. So if you want to see just a bunch of friends try to play a game, but really just make jokes and make fun of each other, that's a fun time. But yeah, you can catch me on the internet at the Kappa Chris. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I use he, any pronouns.
Excellent. Ren.
Oh, hey, hi, that's me. My name is Ren. I use they, them pronouns. You can find me anywhere on the internet at Thorny Dryad. I am an agender variety streamer, podcaster, audio editor, and professional game master. I run a Fabula Ultima campaign through Start Playing Games, which is super great. I am also someone who runs RPGs on my own Twitch channel where we'll do focus on charity. And I have a monthly Masks a New Generation campaign that streams. Kappa is another one of the cast members in that as well. So you can check that out if you see my stuff on the Twitter. I try to advertise for that. But for Roads Uncharted, I play the wonderful and enigmatic character 8, the Warforged caretaker, who is currently undergoing some radical personality changes in season 5.
I feel like that happens after 3, 4, 5 seasons of a game. Someone's got to change. And last but certainly not least, Sebastian.
Right. Hello, everybody. I'm Sebastian Yue. I use they, them pronouns. On Roads Uncharted, I play Trix, who is Novatrix the Lassen, who is everybody's favorite rogue, but also they like to call themselves an independent contractor, much more preferred. when I'm not on Roads Uncharted, I am a full-time tabletop writer and editor and game designer. I work for Canadian publisher Hit Point Press, and I also do a ton of freelance stuff. You can see my design in the upcoming Tomb Raider RPG, which is very exciting.
Amazing. So yes, thank you all for being here. We are so excited. 5 seasons, nothing to sneeze at. First and longest running. So tell us, because I've played a lot of systems. I actually haven't played Genesis. It's one of the few I feel like I've just not jumped into.
That I feel like we hear that a lot whenever
Yeah.
we bring up this system, is that's like, oh, either I've never heard of it or I've heard of it but I've never played it. It is essentially a narrative dice system. So you create your characters, and the crunchiest part of the game is actually creating the character, just for calculating XP for how to build it. But as far as the dice go, the dice all have different colors and symbols, and you pool your dice, so you have your stats, your if you have skills, you're gonna, thank you, Kappa. If you're gonna
Visual aids.
yes, visual aids. If you have like a skill in something, like if you want to compare it to D&D, like you're proficient in something, that changes the type of dice that you would use, because it means you have more of a chance of success. And then I, as the GM, would set the difficulty, whether that's the really bad dice that Kappa is showing on stream right now, or any number of modifiers. You throw the dice, and you got your goods that cancel out your bads, and whatever the net result is, that is what happens. And you can do anything from failing with style or failing forward, depending on how you want to word that, or you could have resounding success, or you could have an absolute despair, which is a resounding failure. And it's really up to the GM and the players to work together to determine what that looks like for the scene.
Something that I really like in our game is we often we do end up with failures, but we always find a way to make those failures fun. Or you fail, but like you said, fail forward, or we succeed, but there are consequences. So
Yeah, there's a sorry, my brain is always reaching for similar. There's a Star Wars game that's very similar in that dice system.
Yes.
It's the same publisher.
Yeah.
same
That would
publisher. They
explain
use
it. Okay.
almost the exact same dice.
Yeah, it's so
Yep.
similar that actually I am playing with Star Wars dice, because the dice are out of print, or I think maybe recently have come back, but I'm using Star Wars dice to play this game because the symbols correspond to the same things, even if they look different. So that's how I play it.
And the colors of the dice and the shapes and everything are the same for both systems. It's just the symbols are different, so they're totally interchangeable if you have access to one and not the other.
Yeah, but I was able to find the Star Wars dice on eBay, but alas, not the other dice. So
Isn't there a reason why people haven't been playing Genesis very, very much?
I thought the book was out of print.
There's a combination of factors that led to that. One of the big things that happened was about 5 years ago, the original RPG department at Fantasy Flight Games was downsized and then sold off to a subsidiary. So it caused a lot of weird shifts in the way they produced their RPGs. And unfortunately, Genesis had been released around the exact same time that happened, and it caused a little bit of strife with the implementation of the system. I have a feeling that they probably had bigger plans for it, but they just never really followed through on them. But that's just speculation on my part.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple supplements. I mean, they've got the Terranaut supplement, which is more fantasy geared. Then you've got Android, which is, more sci-fi geared. And then Genesis is built to be more like system agnostic, and you can use it for pretty much anything. So
kind of like Cypher to an extent.
Yeah, almost like Cypher. Yeah.
Yeah, that always stinks when something happens with the publisher and it just ends up hurting everything. Like we were all talking about, because I play in a Starfinder podcast, and they were all talking about, Pathfinder 2E's out. Maybe we're gonna get the Starfinder 2E, and I'm like, we're never gonna get Starfinder 2E. It's never gonna happen. Starfinder is so small, and they've just downsized that, and Starfinder 2E is announced. Never mind, egg on my face.
part of the issue too is that the dice in and themselves are a bit of a problem. I know there are a lot of people that don't want to get into any of the systems because they don't want to have to buy special dice when they could use their D&D set for another system, which is why a lot of people tend to not even play the Star Wars Fantasy Flight game system. They'd rather hack 5e to turn it into Star Wars or hack Pathfinder. It's just the dice are not a thing for people. They'd rather
proprietary dice are a very divisive topic for people in the role-playing game community. So
I am a dice goblin, but I'm also like, I didn't want to have to buy the Avatar dice to play Avatar. I don't want to buy I've got so many dice already.
That's where for me, I like that there are online dice rollers for that kind of stuff. I totally understand having something tactile that you can roll and everything, but I mean, if the tools are there, and it would be great to just try it, branch out, and then decide if you want to invest later on. So I'm glad that there are tools out there that exist for these games with the proprietary dice.
That's definitely made it easier. And I played a really interesting system called Through the Breach, where instead of rolling dice, you flip cards, and they have a completely unique card set, but you can also play it using normal trading cards or playing cards. You just, hearts or rams. And so it was like, okay,
Malifaux.
That at least is easier.
Yep. Kind of piggybacking off of what Kappa said, there's a lovely companion bot that you can put in a Discord server called D1CE or D1C3, and it uses commands to roll Fantasy Flight Games dice for you. So if you ever want to try, and everyone uses Discord these days, you can get that bot in your server and you can give it a roll.
We have it in our server. We've used it for guests. We've used Sebastian was able to use it when they first came on, until they could get some dice. So,
I am
definitely useful.
A big proponent of digital dice, especially like for GMing, because sometimes you have to roll 30 d6s. And I have it's not on my desk right now, but I have a journal that is just for keeping track of active D&D stuff. So if I'm in session, but also I have a notepad file and a calculator open, and and so not having to dump a bag of dice on my desk and then sort out the ones that I need and then roll a whole bunch, when I can just go click, 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 here's the math, make a note, is really powerful. And then it also makes it so that accessibility is a thing, because we all like to have swag when it comes to our just look at Kay's background. We all love to have cool stuff. But those proprietary dice are kind of a barrier to entry, and so a digital alternative removes that barrier and makes it easier to introduce it to other people so that they can get into it too.
100%.
One shots and charity games, right? There are so many charity games where it's I would love to play this, but it requires a thing that I don't have. And if this were going to be a campaign, then I could probably justify investing in it. For this one shot, can I do it digitally? I don't trust RNGesus, but for a one shot, it's okay if he betrays me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. I came on as a guest originally, and I was using the dice bot in Discord, and then I picked up this system to play this game for this show. So now I have my own dice. It's exciting.
So I wanted to ask, because I actually said before, I'm in a Starfinder podcast. I joined in the 3rd season of it, mostly because they were a GM and 3 players, and we're like, we actually kind of need some more people. How has it been keeping up the energy? Because 5 seasons, 5 years that's a time.
Do one of my players want to take this from your perspective, so I'm not the only one talking?
Yeah, I mean, I think because when I joined, it was just Ren and Kappa, and so I came in as a a third player. And so I've really enjoyed the way that the momentum has been going. I can't really speak to like the long term stuff, but I think I've been around since did I join in season 4?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I joined at the start of season 4.
Go ahead.
No,
ahead.
please, Kappa, you first.
Okay. I think part of keeping the, like you said, energy and motivation up is one. This is a fantastic group of people. I like honestly don't think that a table can go as long as it does without having a good connective tissue between the players at that table. And that also includes the GM. Dax has made a very, very compelling world and interesting story that we get to play around in. And that has been, keeping me invested in the story as much as I am invested as a person in these people that I, enjoy being in the presence of.
Yeah, for my perspective, 5 seasons. I've been around since the very beginning of the podcast. I'm the common thread beyond the GM for this game, and I think part of what drives my my motivation for this, as Kappa said, it's the players, it's the people at the table. I've seen a fair number of players come and go from the game over the seasons, but those are all for various real life reasons. People need to come and pick up things and do other stuff. But I think that beyond the people, it's also the flexibility of the game system itself that really lends itself to the story we're telling. As was mentioned during the dice section we just talked about, failing forward, success with complications. There's never a cut and dry thing that happens in this game, and we are always challenging each other to come up with fun ways to twist the screws and make interesting stuff happen during the game. So we keep it fresh.
I think one thing I wanted to add as well that I forgot. Dax also lets us shape the world. It's not just the GM, but we can add different bits of lore, different bits of culture, which again has us building investment into the story. I think that's something that more GMs should allow, especially for longer term campaigns. Play how you want to play for sure, but I think there is a special magic that comes with tables that collectively grow the world together, as opposed to just one person and then everyone else kind of playing around in the sandbox.
So my question is, April 2020, the first episode, what happened leading up to this? Like, what's the genesis for Roads Uncharted? What made you pick the system? Where'd the idea come from? Maybe there was something happening in the world that prompted that. I mean, nothing important happened in April 2020. Like
So
22,
yeah, no, well, actually, so fun thing. So our group actually was together back in 2018, the original group. We at the time, I had a couple players that were really super into Critical Role, like super fans, and they're like, "Oh, let's do a 5e live stream. That can't be too hard." So
famous last words.
famous last words. So Ren and I had the best tech at the time, which honestly isn't saying a lot, but we had the best tech. So we're like, well, we'll run tech, from our house or whatever. And like, I had wanted to always run a game, so I was like, I'll run the campaign. Sure. I kid you not, first session I had 10 pages of notes. Kid you not. Because as a new GM, I wanted to plan for every eventuality, which as you GM more, you learn you can't do that. So we did about 11 sessions, and then we're like, this live stream is just not working, between tech issues and everything. And like, honestly, D&D is just not really helping us tell the story we as players want to tell. So Ren and I ended up going to Gen Con in 2019, and we're like, well, what if we turn this into a podcast? You know, there's some panels that are going on about podcasting at Gen Con. Let's go check those out while we're there and see if that'd be something that'd be viable. So we went to, like, I don't know, like, what, 4 or 5 panels, Ren, and we got some really good advice from a lot of different podcasters of all different sizes and all different types. And we came back to the group and we're like, hey, like, why don't we turn this into a podcast? Because then we can record ahead. We can edit out, you know, any long pauses or rules discussions because, you know, whatever. I was like, and hey, Red and I have experience playing Genesis. This is a really narrative system. Let's turn it into that. That actually might help with, you know, because we're a very narrative table. Mm-hmm. And it was about them. We lost one player, which is fine, you know, between life and the fact that just Genesis wasn't their thing, which is totally fine. Not every system is for every player or every GM. So one of the things that they tell you told us at these panels is that if you possibly can get at least 3 months, better if you can get 6 to 8 months, but at least 3 months of backlog, you know, so that way, God forbid, something happens in your recording schedule. If you miss a recording, you're suddenly not rushing to record and edit and release to meet your scheduled deadlines. So we had been recording for like 6 months before we even released the episodes. The fact that it released in April 2020, right after the pandemic hit, ended up kind of working out because we were already on Zoom and everything else. So it's not like we had to really shift in, you know, how we were going to handle things. So yeah, it just comes down to the, you know, we had wanted a system that was really going to work for the story we wanted to tell, and podcasting seemed like a lot less stressful way to run a campaign comparing to a live stream, which I won't speak to how Ren's editing process and how stressful that may or may not be, but from the GM side of things, it is a lot less stressful.
Do want to dig into that because, again, I'm on a podcast and we all pitch in with the editing. But before we go any further, I want to take just a big step back and say, like, tell us, Roads Uncharted, what is the elevator pitch? What if someone is in here and is like, these seem like cool people? The heck is this?
See, what can I remember from what I put on our website? So Roads Uncharted is a story about a group of adventurers that are looking for a bunch of children that went missing mysteriously on the night of a festival. No clue as to where the kids went, what happened to them. So they're spending their time searching for that. At the same time, you got a group of cultists or just some strange random organization that is causing problems in the world. Are the two related, or are they merely just two large events with unforeseen consequences? Any of my players want to add to that elevator pitch?
I'm trying to
ahead.
think of like what could I add to this in this elevator ride.
Yeah. I mean, say the elevator gets stuck and we all have time to elaborate.
Sure.
Yeah, I do think like
it's a very tall building.
It is. Yeah, I do think Roads Uncharted is really the perfect name for it because there's been so much emphasis on exploration. Like we do a lot of traveling. We are frequently in new locations and we're kind of always on the move, or we have been at least since I joined. And so there's a lot to discover, and there's a whole lot of like funky little guys to meet in every like location. Yeah. So like honestly, if you're interested in exploration and like finding out about the world at the same time as the characters are, then this is a very good story for you.
Yeah, if you like whimsical characters and strange happenings, it's a great podcast to pick up. We've got in our first season, we introduced the idea of Jerboa people, and we've got all sorts of other great strange denizens in the world, including squirrel folk and raccoon people, and you know the usual standard classics like your werewolves, your minotaurs, and things like that. But we've had a whole slew of great characters in the story, and despite telling a heartfelt and sometimes emotional story, we do get those moments of comedy and levity in, and I think it's just an overall fun romp to have where we subvert some tropes or make fun of tropes that you see in role-playing games as well.
There's
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
there's that one string of episodes where our characters play the equivalent of Dungeons and Dragons
Yes.
in the world. So that was a trip.
I love those like meta holds. Yes.
And I also did want to say that in the time that I've been here, we've done so many things. Like there was a whole kind of arc where we did a murder mystery. We were investigating what happened with that, and we also, we've also done like a kind of fancy ball. We've done like, we went to go make deals with a witch in a forest. You can do a lot. You can do a lot with this
There was a
system.
pie eating contest. There was
We went and had tea.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Portals.
Portal shenanigans. Yep.
Portal
shenanigans.
Yeah. There's a prophecy, some talking jewels. Yeah, there's a lot of like the story spans a lot of just eclectic pieces, and it's just fun to, to think back on how far we've come in the time that we've had telling this story. Whoa!
Sorry,
Wow!
I am being bullied.
You are being supervised to the max, is what that is.
I am now a perch. Congrats to me.
Fantastic. Cat tree.
Yes.
Your cat looks like he's settling in to take a nap. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yep.
he's gonna be here for
I was gonna say he does look like he's
he looks
Oh.
eepy.
he's posting up. He's posting.
Yeah.
up.
He is aggressive. This is like, look, I am so cute and so sweet, and you should stop what you're doing and give me attention and make things move so I can murder them right now.
Yep.
So you've told us about this world, and apparently y'all get up to a lot of hijinks. But tell us about like your characters, like the conception of them, how they get involved, what gets them going, and what sort of and what motivates them to get into trouble.
I love seeing who's like, ugh, and who's like.
I will just say real quick, because I'm not going to be involved in this piece because it's all about the players, but I love each and every one of these characters, and being able to have the chats with, and this includes the guests too, having chats with these people before they make their characters. I just sit there and go, yes.
Can I say, I think that is, we talked before about what makes someone a good interviewer, a good host for a thing, and you have to care.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't care, then and the same is true for a GM. If you as a GM are not the biggest fan of your players, your table's not going to be that fun.
Absolutely.
That's how it is. So that is so exciting to hear. Who's going first?
This is tricky. We could go in chronological order or reverse chronological order. I don't know. What makes sense?
I like chronological order. Like who's first?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that would be me.
Ren 8.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so yeah, as I mentioned, I'm the longest running player, the longest existing character in this game. I play an automaton caretaker named 8. And when we originally made the game, as was mentioned, it was a D&D podcast, or it was a D&D live stream, and I wanted to play a Warforged. So I made a Warforged cleric at the time. And the whole idea I had for this character was 8 is just a good soul. 8 is a character that lived and breathed for the sole purpose of taking care of their creator. They were a homemaker, they were a scholar and tutor, they were an errand runner, they were tasked with growing things in the garden and cooking and cleaning and all that stuff. And throughout the series, 8 has a very heavy emphasis on naivety, wanting to experience things for the sake of experiencing them, and cooking, because 8 loves to cook and 8 loves to share meals with friends. And in 8's experience, everyone is their best friend, because what else would someone be if not a friend? So 8 has this wholesome air about them, and it gets them into so much trouble throughout the entire series. They make a lot of friends, they make a lot of enemies, and they don't understand a lot of social nuance. It's a real fun character to play. One of the real things I wanted to explore with this character wasn't necessarily just like, oh, I want to be a robot. It was, I want to play a character that explores the blur between humanity and what makes someone human, what makes someone a person. There is lore in the setting about how Warforged automatons were originally created to be weapons. And my character exists in this state where, depending on who they run into, they might have a completely different interaction with them if they perceive them as a weapon of war, as opposed to, hey, this is just someone who wants to be friends with me. This is someone who wants to buy things from me. This is someone who wants to offer their services as a babysitter, or that's right. In the second season, we had a babysitting arc where 8 and one of the other characters babysits for a few episodes. It's been a ride, and I mentioned that 8 has been experiencing a very large personality shift in season 5, story-wise, and I guess I can say spoilers for anyone who's watching. 8 has more than one soul inside of them, so it has manifested in the development and the display of a different personality in season 5. So for those of you who start listening, you can see a completely different type of character being portrayed from this character. So,
And I'm sure that's not traumatic for anyone else in the group.
Perfect timing, Kappa.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, so like I said earlier, I play Ro, and Ro joined, was it the beginning of season 2?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yep.
Ro joined at the beginning of season 2. And I wanted to play or explore themes of you know, I wanted to explore the theme of someone going out into the world for the first time, finding out different, you know, finding out different things, that like different cultures, different ideologies and stuff. Because in Ro's backstory, his werewolf heritage meant that there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of competition, and in the world, we've split up the world into 2 separate major continents. One is more focused on technology, and the other one is more focused on magic. So Ro comes from the continent that is more focused on technology, and season 2, we see Ro travel across this giant ocean to try and find other cultures, other ways of life that work, that he could possibly bring back home. If he goes back home, we don't know yet. And he runs into 8, and at the time, Arthas. And in the outset, I played Ro to be sort of a foil to 8, where 8 is a little bit socially inept. Ro has had to hide his werewolf heritage a little, yeah. Has had to hide his werewolf heritage for so long, so he knows and understands social cues, how people talk, and how people reveal little or a lot through what they say, and more importantly, what they don't say. And so a lot of that initial first season was Ro sort of being as a guide to 8 on it to explore various social situations, exploring things like friends, exploring things like the concept of jokes, uh, to someone who doesn't understand and versus someone that understands a lot of what the difference between a joke and a lie. It's a very fun exploration of that dynamic. And so through going and as a result going through all these adventures, joining the cause and meeting various people, various cultures, towns, cities in this magical continent, Ro is starting to learn, aside from that, there are other ways to live in a non-violent manner. There are so many different ways to enjoy life on the road. We meet a very specific NPC, one of our guests, and introduces Ro like the concept of you can just do this for a living. You can just be an adventurer. And since then, Ro has latched onto that concept of adventuring and has really thrown himself into it without really knowing the severity of what a life of adventuring can get you. Yeah. Because he's paired up with 8 for this journey, there's a bit of that naivety that bleeds from 8's character into Ro's character, and they go about helping folks, going to authorities and be like, how can we help, pop into a town, and like jumping at any opportunity to make other folks' lives better. And it isn't until later that, oh man, some people just don't want that. Some people just don't want everyone else's life to be better. And so that's a lesson that Ro has been struggling with for the past, I think, like season or so. Yeah. But overall, I think Ro has been Ro has embraced the adventurer lifestyle, but we don't know whether or not he's still going to go home. We had one guest who we ran into that is from Ro's history, from his backstory. So that's really fun. Go listen to that, because it's some of the most emotional storytelling that I've ever been a part of. And yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of dovetails pretty neatly into Sebastian's character. This whole like exploring the darker side of adventuring.
Yeah, honestly, my character is Trix, spelled Trix. And when I was creating them, I personally usually do not, if I'm in a game from the very beginning, I do not really consider the party composition, because from my point of view, I'm just like, everyone should play whatever is fun, and if we end up with no healer, then well, I don't know, we'll figure it out and it'll be funny. But because I was coming in later, I looked at the party composition already, and I was like, okay, they have a kind of magic user healer type. They have a warrior kind of party face type. And I was like, yeah, but like, what if I played a rogue type of character who was a bit more, who was used to dealing with like more illegal activities, and who had a different fighting style. Trix is a very tactical, analytical person. I've really enjoyed playing that. They're an Adarkai, which is kind of this setting's equivalent of like a dark elf. And they've been very, very reluctant to talk about their backstory. And the episode that we just finished recording got into that like a tiny bit, and we're on a cliffhanger right now. And so I don't know when that episode is going to air, but it'll be a while. But they've been very reluctant to talk about where they come from, who their parents are. And that is about to explain, we're about to enter some territory about that, and it's going to explain a lot of why they are the way they are. And regarding Rowan 8's relationship to helping people and to being open to working with, the authorities, Trix is a completely different conception of who is a friend and who is not. They're coming at this with a lot of prejudices that are informed. So, arguably justified, like they are coming from somewhere, but they're also they're very reluctant to trust people in positions of power, and they're inclined to take their resources and funnel them into other people who are, more deserving or who don't have them. I mean, it's kind of like Robin Hood situation to an extent, and I like the idea of playing a rogue who has a very um, who has these kinds of sensibilities, but is still ultimately at the end of the day, the result is that they're in the right. Morally, I saw that this party composition was for, very much characters who wanted to do good, and I was like, okay, so I'm not just going to be a stabby like murder hobo. I mean, we can do that, but yeah, and they I'm trying to do this in a way that's not spoilers. They're sitting in a very interesting intersection of privilege and also poverty, because they have been in various, they have a criminal background, and they did a lot of illegal stuff like smuggling and theft and blackmail, just to get by, because those kinds of jobs pay well. But we're about to see what kind of made them do that in the first place, and like the kinds of things that they decided to give up to do it. And it's going to be really interesting, I think. I'm anticipating that the other characters might feel a little bit betrayed by this, because their whole persona is like, a cab, like screw rich people, like, and it's going to be really interesting to find out where they come from. So,
Which is only funny because it's your character that turned them into that too.
yeah, it really is. I mean, we had a whole arc, and
yeah.
like it resulted in us like looting the mayor for all of his life savings, and his life savings was like ridiculous. It was like
It's like $250,000.
it was like two hundred
It
fifty
was so
thousand
much money.
dollars or
It was so
something.
much.
Yeah,
We
and like I
Absurd.
didn't, yeah. And Dax was like, I didn't think you would take all of it, and I was like, of course I'm taking all of it. We can afford
Why
to like
would you
stay in
leave
nice
some?
taverns.
Right.
Yeah, we can afford
right.
to stay in nice taverns now. We can afford to like buy a horse and a
Yeah.
carriage. We don't have to walk. Like,
So
this
to
is
be fair, I
great.
said that because I hadn't actually. I was like, oh, there's going to be this, and then some cash, and they're like, we're going to take
Like,
all of it.
how
So
much
I'm like,
cash?
okay, now I actually have to decide how much cash, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I threw out an arbitrary number, forgetting what my own conversion to actual dollars would be, and then we sat there and did the math, and I was like, oh,
it's a lot.
Wait.
I have a lot of money.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, I think Dax was thinking like, what is a realistic amount for someone of this person's, status to
Yeah.
have, and it makes
Yeah.
sense. It was just very funny, and yeah, like so Trix has been a very much like, authority figures, we can just nick their stuff, like they won't miss it. They could just buy another one, it's fine.
Yeah.
And like an example of this is like I think eight what like we were in a town, and the guards are also constructs, and eight was like, oh, these people are constructs, like maybe I could talk to them, maybe we'll have something in common, they seem like nice people. And Trix was like, no, they're guards, like you can try to talk to them, but they're going to attack you, don't bother. Like, so it's been a very interesting way to explore these kinds of social dynamics and relationships that are
Yeah.
very much informed by our characters' histories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite bit was 8 in a row have been helping out villages and talking to mayors, and then they're suddenly in this new continent, meet Trix, and Trix is like, rich people suck, don't trust them. And then like one episode later, it's rich people do suck. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
so
that
was
11
a lot of
episode
fun.
art.
Yep.
That's the tagline for it.
I had to grin the whole time, Sebastian, because when I joined Emergency Power, I basically did the same thing. At Starfinder, I played I looked at the party comp, I'm like, they need a face. They don't have a face. It went real bad for them when they tried. I was like, I'm going to play a Solarian, which is basically a space paladin, who thinks they're a rogue. And yeah, I was like I was the shady
Great.
character, and with the past that they didn't want to reveal. Also, hello Matt. I could not say hi because I'm currently being owned. So
Yeah.
Dax, you ran into a very specific problem that I have had, because I run a home game for K, and K, like many of my players, including and me too, we all hate doing math, and so I make them do math.
I'm an accountant, so I can't use that
refused.
excuse.
I refused.
Ooh.
I refused.
So I come up with a money system, because I make sure that like there are different countries that all have their own currency, and it's not just like gold, silver, copper. And then one of my players is like, by the way, I'm kind of sort of maybe like an aristocrat a little bit. I kind of have effectively endless money. And I'm like, okay, that's fine and dandy. And then we also have a player who's like, oh, that person is like politically important, knife goes in, blood comes out. And so between sessions, because like they'll go and they're like, okay, well, we want to do such and such, and I'm like, okay, well, you have to grab your aristocrat friend, go to the bank, get a banknote, and then write out the thing, and then come back and hand it. And the amount of time that I've spent with a calculator and like the little green visor and a pencil doing the math.
I'm like, my character has an
Yeah,
intelligence
the abacus
of 8.
too, and the little old calculator with it.
Right.
And
like, so
no.
And so when you're like, well, I'll just like throw out a number and it'll be fine. I made the same mistake, and they ended up finding a thing that was like $25,000. And for most of the people in the party, and like I hadn't done the math ahead of time, and I was like, it's fine. And for most of the party, they were like, we've never seen this much money in one place. And then like the other player was like, oh, well, like if I dig through the cushions of the couch in my house, I will come up with twice this.
Yeah.
And then one of the players then snagged one of the notes and was like, oh, we have infinite money. You should have never told me that. Went and found the most expensive chocolate place in the city. Bought like $2,000 worth of chocolate, and then bribed all the orphans in the city into being his own personal army. And now there's this whole story arc of like people who are mean to orphans disappearing because he's like, you guys should go get knives, and if bad people are bad to you, you should stab them. And now it's a whole thing. But yeah, the money system.
Up until Trix joined, like there'd never been, we're gonna loot the body, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. None of that. So it didn't even cross my mind. Just threw out a number, forgetting I had actually done a literal 10-time conversion. So yeah.
Oh my God, Kato!
Story about Kato.
Well, I mean, the upside to that is that we haven't really been looting since then because we haven't needed to. Like, so my rogue isn't really in it to get rich for the sake of getting rich. I mean, they were just in it to see like what was in the safe, and it turns out that this is more than enough to live a very comfortable life. And so since then, we've been staying at nice taverns with like soft beds. It's been really good.
Yeah,
we have a horse and a carriage, and we can sit in the
carriage this whole time. Yeah, ever since meeting you, instead of just sleeping bagging under the open sky.
Yeah, so I mean, when it came to leave this town, like we were like, so where are we headed? And Trix was like, I mean, first stop is we have to get a vehicle. It looks like we have a lot of, you're dragging around these heavy packs, and everyone was like, wait, we usually walk. And I'm like, yeah, but consider that you might not have to. Like, we can have pack animals. Like.
Life can be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed up and we right away, pretty quickly went into like one big fight, which led into a mini boss fight and kill the mini boss. And everyone's kind of like doing their thing. And I'm like, I am searching the body. And everyone's kind of like, oh, we don't really loot. I'm like, I'm not looking for money. I want info. I'm looking for IDs. Like, who is this mofo that you've been chasing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, oh yeah, the way our money system is, we don't really have to loot bodies. And I'm like, I don't care. I need info. I'm not looking for money.
Yeah, there are other things you can look for on the body.
That's the beauty of this party. Realistically, is we've been playing for so long, and we get into fights, but we've never really like murdered anyone or killed I said most of the seasons.
Most.
And
there's been
looting bodies has never been a thing that we would have ever considered.
We had a literal Trix's literal guest was to come find us for what we did and who we took out, right? Is that
I can't wait for that.
That's like the only person that we've
cannot wait.
Killed.
That's the thing, is when GMs make your actions come back to haunt you.
Yeah.
You think twice about becoming a murder hobo. Like, that's a good GM. When GM's like, look, I'm not gonna TPK you, but you're gonna have consequences that you're not gonna enjoy.
Yeah,
like,
they're worse fates
won't.
than rolling a new character. Much worse fates.
Oh yeah.
No, it's just because like in this particular instance, like we were very much forced into it, and so like the consequence is that like everyone knows that we're like everyone's looking for us, and there are certain towns that we just can't visit because we'll just get arrested on sight, and so we've had to change our course of direction, like in terms of travel, to avoid that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you are not living such an adventurer's life, that there isn't at least one town guard out there who's like, fight on sight, these motherfuckers, then
Yeah,
you're
and I
not
mean, it
doing it
was,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was a really interesting discussion because Trix was like, "No, we got to kill this guy because he's just going to go back and tell his guard buddies," and Eight was like, "Well, I already said I wouldn't kill him, and like I want to be a person of my word." And I was
what
like,
the line?
"Hey,
Don't make 8 a
yeah,
liar.
don't make Eight
Yeah,
a
don't
liar,"
make
and
a
Trix
liar
was
out of Eight.
Trix was
I
like,
was
yeah,
like,
in that, yeah, and in that moment, my character was like, you know what? Sure, I'll do it for this character's self-preservation, but also it will come back to haunt us, and then maybe I can in so many words say I told you so, and then next time this happens, then perhaps we'll reconsider the strategic
Next time, more
implications of our
stabbing.
decisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it's been really fun to play with that.
And then it happened.
Yeah.
Yep. And then it happened.
and then it happened.
Well, if it isn't the
Yeah, I mean,
consequences of my own actions.
Yep.
yeah, like I did try not to be so much of a dick about it, but we did have that conversation.
It was a very hard lesson for Ro to realize, to learn, and I think that it's stuff like that where we can turn something into a narrative growth point
Mhm.
is great between this like in this cast. So I don't know. I'd rather have consequences and stuff rather than everything happen the way we want all the
Yeah.
A
time.
character
forever.
can't grow unless they make mistakes and have
Yeah.
stuff happen. Like not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows, I mean,
Yeah.
like and that's not to say that if you're running your game and everything's sunshine and rainbows that's not okay. It's all dependent on what table you got going on.
Yeah,
but I find
exactly.
that characters and players tend to enjoy it more if there's stuff for them to grow from. Just
I
like
like
we grow as people.
spice. I like spice. I like
And
conflict and consequences. And I like one of the things that I like about this group is that we're very good at communicating with each other, but we're also not afraid for our characters to get into disagreements, and nobody's taken it personally. It's been really nice. Sorry,
I
Ren, you were
like
gonna say
playing-
something?
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
playing disaster queers. So if they can't go off and be a disaster somewhere and learn from it and then go be a disaster in a different way, why am I playing TTRPGs?
I mean, speaking of disaster queer, I mean, Ren, do you want to talk about Amara real quick?
Oh my
Well-
god.
What about Amara do you want me to talk about?
I don't know.
I like strong women.
we've referenced referenced Eight's other personalities
Mhm.
so far. I think the current arc that is in season 5, we've shifted away from 8, which my character desperately misses. I don't know what the audience reaction has been. I've been a little bit disconnected from that, but I don't know. Do you want to talk about Mara?
Yeah. So one of the fun things with 8 is throughout the seasons we've had, 8 has displayed alternate personalities, which have always at their core still been 8, pretending to be someone else. For example, there was Inspector 9 when we had the pie eating contest that turned into a murder mystery in season 2, and Ro, 8, and Arthas worked with the local constabulary to investigate the murder and determine who killed the pie eating contest champion. 8 developed the persona of Investigator 9 for the sole purposes of investigations and detective mysteries. Then there was
7.
7. 7 is
7.
8's rogue-ish personality, who's more like a thug and enforcer more than anything else.
Worst rogue ever.
Pretty
Worst.
much. And there were plans I had for all these other personas that 8 might adopt
forget Zero.
given specific situations, like Zero, when we had our meta game where our characters played Danger and Daring. 8 adopted the persona of Zero, which is 8's imagination capable version of themselves. And Amara is a little bit different than those because Amara is
Not a number.
not a number. And most importantly, Amara is the personality and soul of the woman that created 8, which is revealed in season 5. And Amara is a person with experience well and above that which Trix and Ro have, as far as we're aware. I mean, Trix has been around for a while, but and we don't know everything Trix has been into yet. So it stands to reason that Amara's several hundred years of life has given them a little more experience. Amara's a fighter. Amara's a tinkerer. Amara's a bit snarky. Amara's a bit more on the same page with Trix as far as trusting people and going along with schemes and things like that. It's a very big shift from Eight's happy-go-lucky, plucky personality that the audience has been experiencing for the past couple of seasons. So when the shift happens in season 5, I hope that it surprises the listeners as much as it did the other players at the table when we revealed this change in game. And wow. This was a character concept, an idea that I had from Eight's inception, was that the creator wanted to find a way to prolong their life. So they slipped their consciousness inside of a construct that they made. Think very much like Alphonse in Full Metal Alchemist. A soul attached to a suit of armor, more or less. But that also brings up the questions of humanity and where does one personality begin and where's the other take over from there. There's the discussion between the characters of consent and what makes it okay for this character to take over the existence of another soul, another person's essence, essentially, and how do we kind of reconcile that? And we've had some really great in-character conversation about that. So I think we've had some great exploration about the intricacies of this development in game. So I don't know if any of the other players want to speak to that or what their thoughts and experience were about.
Oh, everything okay?
Yeah, no, just a tech issue that I thought I conquered a long time ago reared its ugly head, and I want to scream a little bit. It's fine.
Let's see. I don't know. This whole Amara arc has honestly been a very interesting conversation that we've been having across multiple episodes. I don't know. It's fascinating to me, and I love what we've been doing with it. So I don't know. Yeah, those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, honestly, I've been really enjoying it as well, because Trix does very much consider 8 to be a friend, and but they're also like as I said, like they're very analytical and very tactical, and so like their first question were, like in their mind when the change happened was, okay, so what does this mean for like the goals that we have, and what does this mean for like how is this going to change our plans? Because they kind of instantly accepted that this change had happened and was like, well, I mean, I don't know anything about this problem. It will, like, we can try a few things to maybe get 8 to come back, but if not, then we have to get used to this new character who we are now traveling with. And whereas Ro found that very difficult to accept, and there was a whole scene. They worked out a few feelings. We're getting there. And so Trix does would not be unhappy for 8 to return, but also is not unhappy with Amara either. They're very much capable of going with the flow and seeing how events unfold, and it's been interesting about that too.
Yeah, that exploration of humanity and soul and what makes someone truly like human, not just sentient, but human, is such a fun thing to explore with androids, robots, all of that. I'm famously was not super into sci-fi as a youth, but am getting more into it now because it's becoming less of like, oh no, straight white men are afraid that people with female voices are going to take over and they're not sexy. And now that it's becoming less male gazy, I'm like, oh no, there's some really fun stuff to play with in here. And yeah, that's very fun. The really important question is, do you have a 6 persona, and is 6 afraid of 7?
That is a
And listen, we know what happened to 9, okay? No one makes eye contact with 7, okay? Because we know what happened to 9. That is the worst joke. That is.
I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
I
making
will
it.
always go for the painfully long setup joke any chance I get because it inflicts psychic damage on David.
Every time, 110% of the time.
Love it.
I wanted to ask because we've heard about we've heard them mentioned, but guests. Like, tell us about your process of like guests and like whether they're NPCs or villains or how that works within the storytelling, just like all of that.
Yeah. So the way I like to approach guests is because is done in a way that, so like if I were to guest somewhere, I would want to create my own character. I wouldn't want to be told, you have to play this, you have to do this. Like, I'll do it, but it's like I'm gonna have 10 times more fun if I can create my own player, have some investment in that. So usually my process is I'll start with the players and I'll say, hey, I'm thinking about reaching out to so and so to guest on the stream. Everybody okay with that? You know, once the players
Very
say, oh yeah,
important
that
step.
person's
Don't skip
Yeah.
that step, GMs.
exactly 100%. You want to make sure that your current cast is going to be comfortable, whether it's at a stream, off stream, podcast, whatever it is. You want to make sure they're comfortable with who you're bringing into the table. So once they give the okay, I'll reach out to this person and be like, hey, you know, I'd love to have you guest on the show. This is when we record. Is that doable for you? And then once they agree, you know, we sit down, we talk, okay, well, what kind of character do you want to bring into the story? You know, this is where the party is at right now. This is the party makeup. What do you want to bring in? And I've had people that are like, oh, you know, I want to be the GM tool, which is great, but I always have the hardest time with them. But I'll work with them. But, you know, so we've had anybody from Teldaz who wanted to guest as a scholar, like, think very much goofy Teddy Roosevelt type, explorer type scholar, right? Who's armed with lore for 8. Or you've got C, who guested as a werewolf from Rose Pack, you know, and brings in that antagonist nature. You've got Lexi, who guested as a minotaur whose sole purpose is to get through this labyrinth. And then you've got Warrior, who guested as a minotaur who his family runs are a bunch of adventurers, and he runs a gardening store. And, you know, his family hasn't been seen in a while, so he's going to go on his very first adventure. And what's the best way to go on an adventure is you go to a tavern and you wait for people to show up. And that's how he got involved with the party. So, you know, it's just, what do you want to bring to the story? How long are you available for? You know, because sometimes they can only join us for one session, which is a couple episodes, or they can join us for 2 or 3 sessions, and, you know, we can spread that out a little bit. It's, you know, it depends on what they want to do. And then, you know, we'll have a separate meeting where, okay, we're going to walk through creating your character, and then we just bring them on and get the scheduling, which is the hardest part of any RPG.
It is the first boss of
It
TTRPGs.
is CR20, CR30, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that has killed more parties than any big bad.
100%.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I originally started on the show as a guest, and it was interesting. Like, it was, I can speak to that from like the guest perspective also, because I asked Dax a few questions, like, you know, what's the general vibe of the party, and then I got a sense of like, okay, like these are actually genuinely very nice people. Let's see. I mean, and I was like, okay, but like, what if I made them? What if I like showed up and like it could be a simple escort mission, and then later I betray them, and then we get into a conflict, and that was really fun. And then I was like, hey Dax, so is there a faction that the party has run into that might perhaps have cause for, you know, would they want revenge? Would they send someone else after this party? And so we kind of worked out like where this guest character could fit into the lore of the world, and where like which kind of plot threads we could pick up. And that was really fun. I spent like a whole episode just being nice, and, you know, we had like, you know, 8 cooked us a very nice dinner. It was like potatoes and stuff, and then we had cake. And then like my character
how to make a roast potato. Yep.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, so like,
Aw.
I think that like very much the party considered me to be a friend, and then later I was like, oh no, like actually I'm here because I'm mad because, you killed my cousin, or yeah. Ignoring the fact that my cousin was a terrible person, but
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how
Yep.
revenge goes sometimes.
Yep,
Yeah.
sometimes.
But like no, it was really fun, and so that was a couple of episodes, and then my character got into a fight that he couldn't win, and then kind of fled off into the forest, and it was fine.
Like you do.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to pick out like my GM for my Starfinder game. So okay, I am that person. I am the problem. My character backstories are ridiculously long.
Look,
Mostly
it's
because
only
that's
like
how I get.
30 pages. It's fine.
It's never been 30.
Well, with the
It's
pictures.
never been quite that bad.
With the big.
I had a game that said we need art references. Right? Tell us what they look like and give us references. I can't help it. Yes, I am the problem. That is a quote from me, Matt. But that's how I get to know the character, right? And it's less about like, no, they've done all this stuff, but it's more like, okay, here's me getting to know the character. Here's plot threads. Like, I want to come in with several daggers in my back so the GM can just wiggle them. And I never like I give this information with the TLDR section as well. Like, here's this to the GM, be like, you don't have to read it, but if you want stuff, here's this, because it's here. It's in my head. I want you to at least be aware it's there. You don't have to use it. And like a full season later, at the end of season 3, my GM surprised me with a character from deep, deep, deep in my backstory and just like flipped the tables on me. And you were talking about, everyone kind of builds the world together. And those moments are like, it's really cool when you're like, oh, this is a moment for me, right? This is a moment for my character. It's another thing when it's like, oh my God, I almost forgot I wrote that. That's all the way. Oh, like that really is a great way to draw your characters back in. So yeah, talk about building the world together and adding to the world, and how sneaksy do you get? Clearly pretty sneaksy with guests.
Guests tend to be a little bit more building up. We do have an upcoming guest that I will keep quiet for now just because we haven't even recorded yet. But it is somebody that all the players have worked with before in some capacity, so they are familiar with them as a person and as a player. And their whole angle is they're going to be somebody from Trix's backstory. I think Kappa was the one that mentioned it. Their whole thing is the party already knows above table that this player is being sent to come deal with the party for things that they've done. So, there's that whole level of consent there. But as far as building the world outside of the guests, one of the best examples, honestly, is I have Rhode Island in my world, spelled RHOAD, because 8 likes to summon a companion Rhode Island Red chicken, who we have named 8 Junior. And it is a magic chicken. And so in season 2, the first summoning of 8 Junior, Ren's like, I want to summon like literally a Rhode Island chicken. Can we just make that Rhode Island is a thing? I'm like, yeah, sure, but it can be RHOAD, so it's legally distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of stuff. We had a guest, Valiant Dorian, that came on, and Val was the only guest so far that I've had that I was like, hey, I need this NPC to be played, and you are like one person I know I can trust to do this. So is this something that interests you? And he's like, oh yeah, hell yeah. So he came in, he played a sultan, and I gave him the name of the city, but I said what the city looks like, what the culture like.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally up to you. So we got Dusk Hollow, which is very inspired by Indian and Malaysian and like all these beautiful bright colors, the food, the way people dressed, all of it was based from Val.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I need to interject really quick because Matt said 8's not clucking around.
Pain.
They are not. Okay, there have been multiple iterations of 8. 8 has, we have described 8 as 100-piece chicken nugget size, car sized. There have been swarms of 8, so no, 8 does not cluck around.
8 Junior, yeah.
8 Junior.
There was a point where it was, for me, playing around with, first of all, with 8 Junior, we saw 8 Junior as a regular sized chicken and then a huge chicken and then a car sized chicken. and I thought that would mean that A Junior is being summoned from a dimension where time and size is different than ours. So we were just gonna get eventually a kaiju-sized A Junior. But
Kaiju.
in terms of like building the world, I like influencing the world in smaller ways where introducing language or a name for a place that will stick around with the NPCs that you know that live in it. There's a town that was named after another a character that had left the campaign, and I think we what was it
So it was Chill Falls.
it was Chill Falls, and then it was
I had a player that had to leave. So the way I wrote it out was that we kind of split the party where I did a bonus session with this character to kind of, for the audience's perspective, have a little closure. But 8 and Ro found out from a letter, oh, I've been tasked with this mission. Meet me over here. So like they had a little bit of the season to do like their own adventures. We had a bunch of guests during that time, and then they get to this location. And they find out Arthas had basically saved this town and had done this huge favor for them. So they come upon this town as members are arguing amongst themselves how best to memorialize what he has done. We could carve his face into a rock. We could change the name of the town. We could hold a festival annually. And Rose like, why not just do all three?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, small things like that. Different landmarks. I've lovingly given different names.
Oh my god!
Wait. Did he die in the process of doing this great thing? Like,
no,
is he...
no.
Oh,
no.
okay, I was gonna say, like, is he okay?
Arthas
Like,
is out adventuring,
Arthas is-
doing God
Okay.
knows what.
Kicking around doing giant stuff.
Yep.
Sebastian Spear.
I mean, I'm fine either way, but I was like, wait, where's the guy?
He's around.
But yeah, like adding things to my backstory, to Rose's backstory, or offering suggestions of various types of cuisine and trade and where they come from are ways that I think we've influenced the story and the world. Yeah, I don't know. It nothing. Oh, man, I really wish I had a specific thing other than the devil's butthole.
I was gonna say that's the first one that comes to mind when I think of your contributions. I gave the party a sulfur pit, right? Because I've gone to New Zealand, I've seen the sulfur pits and stuff that they've got down there, and they're beautiful. Like, and only a few of them really smell bad because it's sulfur. And so I said, there's this sulfur pit called the Devil's Bathtub, which is actually a name of one of the sulfur pits down there. And so Rose like, I don't know why they call this Devil's Bathtub. They should call it the Devil's Butthole. And like, that's all the players call it.
Yep.
As they do.
I'm waiting until we hit an NPC that references that location, and just think how they reference it. Because think about it. Ro is a werewolf with a heightened sense of smell. It's going to affect him in a way that is deeper than anyone else in the party.
Yeah, but if this NPC shows up and calls it the Devil's Butthole, will Ro be like, "Ah, yes, my impact"? Like,
no,
Yep.
no, that's purely for me. Kappa, hi, hello. That's purely for me.
Yeah.
Rose is gonna be like, oh yeah, that place.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I definitely. We always, because Starfinder, we're out in space. We're always wanting to rename the ships.
Yep.
And my GM has had to veto, and like it's become a character quirk of like my character's like, I hate the name of the ship, you should name it, and GM's like, that cannot go in the podcast, that cannot go in the
Right.
film. I gotta tell you, David, I've got a great one I'm gonna break Adam with, and he's not gonna let it in the episode. But yeah, that's my joy, is just throwing this out, and it's like, that has to be cut, that cannot go in, and we all have to like get back to center now, so we're not laughing as we come back in and try to move this on. Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
Oh my
Pirate,
god.
thank you
Ooh.
so much for
Whoa.
all of the gift subs. That is so generous of you.
Wow.
25
Amazing.
cats in a cradle. Hello. I am the one chatting with you in chat too. But yes, thank you. Goodness gracious. So yes, has anyone else added a butthole to the game?
Hmm.
No, thank goodness.
Just the standard number of buttholes.
Just the
Just-
standard number.
Number.
Just one. That's all you need.
That's the one.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint a lot of examples because it's just as we go places. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
might say, okay, we're coming across this town. Ren, what's the name of this town? Or, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I like to play to find out, and this system and this table in particular is a very good example of that. Yeah, and there are certain details in my backstory that like even I haven't necessarily thought out, and so like when this guest comes along, it's going to be a very much play to find out situation too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, another example is where 8 originally hails from is a place called the Wyvern Islands, which I was given the freedom to do with as I see fit, and they are a bunch of flying islands on the far side of the world, and 8 took a magical airship that brought them down to the landmass below, and it's just a whole thing. 8
Yeah.
hates flying.
It's really nice to be able to give your players that kind of freedom. It's like you get to say, "Hey, so tell me what this is like," and it's like, "But isn't that part of the thing that you'd be like, yeah, now you get to tell me about it." But what is the biggest curveball, like just off the top of your head, that your players have thrown you where you've had to scramble? Because I know as a GM, if nothing else, my players always making me scramble.
players, if you can think of a moment where you remember seeing me scramble, please bring it up. All right, I've got 4.5 seasons to go through. Can we just
Right.
Apparently,
you know what?
all you
I've
have
got
to do is ask who added a butthole to the game.
Right.
I've got one. Okay, so it's not the biggest, but the first one that comes to mind. So this character Arthas that we mentioned. So Arthas, it plays a giantkin, which is essentially a giant descendant, so not a full giant. And when Neil was telling me about the character that he wanted to bring in, he's like, yeah, I'll be like kind of like themed off of the D&D Goliaths. So I'll be like 8 feet tall. I'm like, okay, tall but doable. There's some basketball players that are 8 feet tall. It's doable, right? Okay. Player comes in the first session. He's there. He describes this character and says Arthas is 11 feet. And I was like, well, now I really have to rethink things. So like that was probably one of the bigger moments where now I'm sitting there going, okay, great. We have to change this, and this. I feel like there's been something recently though that the three of you have thrown at me, and I'm drawing a blank.
I mean, there was the money.
The money, but that was my own doing. That was the consequences of my actions, not
That's
the
true, yeah.
consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
What was it when we decided to invite the Banshee in for the party?
That's right.
Actually, yeah, that's a good one. So, season 4, the arc that really like established Trix
The murder
as-
mystery arc.
as
Yeah.
as a full-time party member. So as the players have kind of alluded to, Ro and 8 were like, yeah, they've got this banshee problem. She's haunting the streets at night. There's a curfew established, and let's help them. And Trix is like, well, I guess if we gotta, like, sure. And so they confront the mayor, and Ro and 8 and Trix are pretty convinced that the mayor's the reason the banshee's here. So like they set up this big dramatic, like, kind of like a Clouseau or
Like
to
a
make a
Holmes-
really
like
dated reference,
Holmes.
like Perry Mason, like those big noir dramatic reveals, right? And so I played off like the mayor's wife is like, oh, slow clap, like good for you, but you're wrong. And they're like, fine. The banshee's outside, right? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we're gonna open the door and let the banshee. And I'm like, well,
And wreak havoc
So-
on all of the city's elite
Yeah.
Of Sparrow's Landing
Yep.
that are all
And while that was
congregated
happening,
here.
yep. And while that was happening, I was upstairs taking the opportunity to loot. So that was great. Like,
Good job,
Yeah,
party.
so that
Nice
was-
distraction.
that was not something I was expecting. And that's definitely a much more recent, yeah.
There was a point where there's this cult going on in the world, and 8 and Ro decided to start their own cult, the Cult of Joy, where it's not really a cult, it's more of like a pledge to spread wholesomeness throughout the land in opposition of the cult of Tanith that we were fighting. But then if we ever come across members of the Cult of Tanith, we would try and out cult them and invite them to the Cult of Joy, stuff like that. And so that sort of thing comes into play in one episode where we actually sit down with a bunch of cult members, and we know that they're cult members. They don't know that we're cult members, and have dinner with them and try our best to get them to either, one, get information out of them, but two, renounce their ways. From I don't know how well it worked. We'll see, but yeah, I don't know, something like that. There's a lot of these little moments in the story where for sure Dax was not expecting it. Either it's a
usually
quip
you
or
can
a
hear
line.
it in the podcast when I pause and I go, oh, okay. Like that's usually
Yep.
that's usually when you hear me say that, that's usually something that the players have done that I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that.
Absolutely. So we are nearing the end of our time together. Chat, if you have any questions for this group, now is the time to throw them out. But y'all, thank you so much. If there are any final thoughts or things you'd like to promo or tease, now is the time.
I don't know, just listen to, like, promote Roads Uncharted. Just listen to us, please. It's a really great story. It's super, super fun. Yeah. We release new episodes on Fridays.
Yeah, every Friday we release episodes. We do take a little hiatus in between seasons, because we're all adults and we have, schedules and things. So it's good to take a break. It's good to do seasons, even if you're not a stream. We do have some recap episodes out there where we kind of go over the highlights with clips and stuff. So if you're not entirely sure you want to listen to a full 4-season backlog before getting into season 5, most of the seasons have a recap except for season 1. We've got some great bonus content out there too. Like we had Paladin guest as a GM, and that was the D&D meta game. So I mean, that's, if you just want to listen to something a little with mechanics more familiar to get used to the characters, like those are some great episodes to check out too.
And go check out the merch store.
And the merch store, which I always forget.
We hit over 5,000 downloads, so we're doing
in 37 different countries.
Yeah,
wow.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I mean we're not stopping anytime soon, so it's like 10K when,
Pirate Fox Atlas wants to know, what's the worst way you all have succeeded in a plan?
Oh, probably. I do want to say, like, the incident when Amara, like, what that made Amara come out. I mean, we succeeded in the sense that we all escaped with our lives, but that was a very messy success.
Very messy success.
Yeah, resulted in, deaths of 3 people that were also, but to be fair, were also trying to kill us, so it was fine, but
just self-defense murder hobo moment.
Yeah.
Disarmed someone, like literally disarmed someone.
Yeah.
They weren't using them for the right things, so.
Yeah.
They weren't.
No. I mean, like, we
Lost
did give them
arm
several
privileges.
chances we did give them several chances to, like, let's just back up a bit, talk this through. Nah. So, I mean, maybe, like, that's the first one that comes to mind. Don't know if anyone else has any.
Axe had a very big reaction, so I feel like she's got something.
Yeah.
That was actually the moment that came to mind. What's the worst way?
Another one I'm thinking of is when we were doing the guest spot with Black Girl Mage, and we got to that room with the smoke and the
oh my god,
mysterious shadowy figure that was guarding the exit, and Ro was like, I've got this. And he just tries to talk to this shadowy figure with like a huge honking sword who looks like they're ready to murder everyone.
This puzzle, you have a figure that will mirror whatever the party does. If the party doesn't attack this figure, they don't attack the party. But if and that's what I set up, and every single person was like, just walk by it, and then Rose like, I'm gonna talk to this person.
Yeah, so like we all proceeded to ignore this obviously hostile looking figure, and it wound up being the correct choice, and we were just like, well, okay, that was easy, and we just left.
But it was bad because I think Ren, I think 8 had like hit the smoke was making you lose some ability, so you like flopped down the stairs. You didn't even walk down the
like
stairs
fell
to
down the
leave.
stairs.
You know, Rose trying to talk to this person. Poor Lexi's just trying to roll your body out of the way. It was pretty messy. Not horrifically messy, but it was messy.
We're a messy group.
Fun kind of messy, though.
We're goofy messy, though.
Yeah.
Also, an
All
excellent,
right.
excellent question.
Yes, very well done. Thank you, Pirate. Thank you again for all of these subs. That's so kind of you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your questions and for hanging out in chat. This group, Roads Uncharted, thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us and telling us about your adventures. It has been a delight. Check out Roads Uncharted, 5 seasons, plus recaps if you want to try and hop in sooner. I think we might go raid Cypher of Tyr. Because she's playing Baldur's Gate 3. And, you know, that's a good
We
time.
do love Baldur's Gate.
We do.
Yeah,
We love
I love
Baldur's
Baldur's
Gate
Gate also.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us and
Thank
you know,
you. Yeah.
spending the time with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Again,
Absolutely.
tell everyone where to find you. New episodes on Fridays.
We are hosted on simplecast.com, or you can find us wherever podcasts are found. Just look up Roads Uncharted. Longest running first ever Genesis RPG actual play podcast. Pretty easy to find.
And leave a star or a heart or a comment, because that really helps whenever
Yes, it
you
does.
listen to a podcast.
It really does.
Yes. Does everyone want to go around really quick and again just kind of say where to find you so that you can promote your stuff as well?
Sure.
I went
Okay.
first, so
Go in reverse order. Go.
So Sebastian.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Sebastian Yue, they, them pronouns. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Sebastian Yue, so SEBASTIANYUE, all one word. And my tabletop writer, designer, editor portfolio is sebastianyue.ca because I'm based in Canada. Thank you very much.
Ren.
Yes, me. You can. Hi, I'm Ren. I'm your friendly neighborhood agender podcaster, audio editor, variety streamer, and professional game master. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Thorny Dryad. That's like a prickly bush. You may also find my link tree by looking up Thorny Dryad. I have some Start Playing games available. If you want to join a wonderful, fabulous Ultima game, give it a look.
Peppa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kappa. Christian is okay too. I am a performer, producer, and now writer in the TTRPG space. I'm in a bunch of stuff. Rose Uncharted, U-Force Inheritance on Ren's channel. Most recently, you could find me on the One Shot Podcast Network. We played most recently played Everyday Heroes. It's just a fun, wacky time with a bunch of friends trying to tell a story as incoherent as it is. And if you want to keep up with the stuff that I write, Undying Corruption, released by Nine Heavens Press, I wrote for them, and I believe the online PDFs are currently out. And then I wrote an adventure for the Tales from Sina Una, which should be coming out to physical release later this year. I'm not sure when, but I'm really excited about that one. Please go check that out.
Soon. I'm an editor on that, actually, so soon.
Soon.
And Dax.
hi, I'm Dax. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me on Twitter at GM_Dax and Blue Sky at GMDax because, you know, God forbid I have the same username in 2 different places. I run charity events, TTRPG events on my Twitch channel, Dexar19, so you can go check me out there. And I also occasionally play video games. But I'm the GM and the producer of Roads Uncharted. Other than those things, I don't really do a whole heck of a lot in the RPG space, unlike my wonderful players, so and our hosts. So, you know,
Sounds like you do
go
plenty.
check them out. Yeah, I do
Sounds
plenty.
like you do plenty.
I do plenty.
David, who the heck is you, and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I am sad that we're not going to play Baldur's Gate on Thursday, but that's okay because we will play Baldur's Gate. It's not going anywhere. If anybody's like, "Oh man, I'm behind on my games," you're not behind. You're not going anywhere. But this is the Chaotic Wholesome presents Table Talk Show, where every Tuesday, we talk about table stuff. No, we talk about TTRPGs. How to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better person, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everybody can have a good time.
And yes, find us here doing this every Tuesday, often with amazing guests. And sometimes it's just us. Sometimes we have Candace because David can't be here. And
Yeah.
we are always lucky to have Candace. Thursday, find me over at Nerdsmith, where we're doing Grand Labyrinth Heist, which is like a Victorian steampunk, and we're the baddies, except we're not really the baddies because it's kind of a Robin Hood thing. We're the oppressed class. So, we got to stick it to the rich people. And Sunday, find me over at Sword and Key playing Trophy Dark. Hopefully Friday right here playing Baldur's Gate. Thank you all. You are wonderful. Be kind to yourself, be excellent to others, and we will see you next time. Bye, y'all.